episode of Pinpoint Unfiltered. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Josh, your neighborhood boy wonder real estate agent. And today we are tackling what neighborhoods are we tackling today? It's Bushwick, Greenpoint, and Williamsburg. What's it like living there? What can you expect? What else, Rach?
Yeah, a few episodes ago we did a couple neighborhoods in Manhattan. We did, what did we do? We did Harlem, we did Hudson Yards, and Lower East, right?
Yeah.
So this time we're gonna do some neighborhoods in Brooklyn, places that get lots of hype. A lot of people, a lot of renters, a lot of first-time buyers want to be out there. So yeah, we're gonna talk about, good things, bad things, if you're getting your money's worth, and if it's a good place for you to rent or buy.
Yeah, and because I am a born Brooklynite, I'm a Brooklyn boy. I'll give you a perspective that's not just, the real estate side of it. Big up Brooklyn, spread love. It's the Brooklyn way.
Right on. Yeah, man. I think sometimes like you don't really have a super thick Brooklyn accent until like certain words. Like
Yeah, my lovely Puerto Rican mother that did so many things to send me through private school for most of my life. She made sure that I have the ability to speak correctly, even though there are times where, like you said, coffee, Knickerbocker, stuff like that. It's not like Graham as some of the kids, or what's the other one? DeKalb. It's DeKalb.
DeKalb. It's DeKalb. What? Is it what? DeKalb?
DeKalb.
No.
Yep, it's not DeKalb. It's DeKalb. But whatever.
All right.
Yeah, so the accent comes and goes at times. I remember the first time I kind of left New York and heard like a British accent, like it's like wow. Or even just go down south to like Florida where they speak differently, and they're like, "Oh, you speak so like differently." I was like, "No, I talk regular. I talk regular.
Regular.
Yeah,
That's good shit.
good stuffs, good stuffs."
Yeah, sometimes I have a Miami accent, right? Depends. So yeah, I guess it all depends. I think
When you want to let the ratchet out.
sometimes I can't help it, right? Like I get so heated. It just comes right out. But anyways, all right. So let's talk about jump right in and talk about some, the biggest, I would say, in biggest neighborhood in terms of um desire, right? Most people desire to live there is Williamsburg.
Yeah, yes. I don't want to say trendy because I feel like Bushwick is a little bit more trendy at this point.
Yeah. I think
Williamsburg,
Williamsburg is post trendy.
yeah, it's after the years of warehouse parties. You just want to settle down and have the good life.
Yeah.
And Williamsburg, and you want to stay in Brooklyn, and Williamsburg is where it's at. A lot of expensive strollers and puppies and Lululemons.
I'm
So
looking at
yeah,
Upper East Side.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much. It's beautiful though. Like I was just in Williamsburg the other day, and a lot of like waterfront stuff is, especially this time of year,
Yeah.
it's magical. It's like, oh, I live here, and then you have the skyline just
Yeah, the
staring
Manhattan
at your
skyline. Yeah,
face.
sure.
Yeah. Well, that when I say skyline, that's usually the only skyline I'm talking of.
Well, you never know. People might be watching from somewhere else.
That's true.
Yeah, I moved here, what I said, like 8.5 years ago. Shit, we're about to hit August in like 3 months, right? It'll be 9 years. And like Williamsburg was still trendy, right? I would say like, shit, I can't believe it's almost a decade. Okay. It was still trendy and it was still like, if anybody remembers hipsters, lots of hipsters. And I feel like you could start to see like families moving in, but not like all like full blown yet. And Bushwick, which we'll get into, but like that is now like I think they've in terms of like gentrification, right? Like Williamsburg is like past gentrification and Bushwick is like smack in the middle.
Yes, yes. I want to say it's like Bushwick is. It kind of gives me like East Village feel, where it's like, oh, new to New York, you're young, it's gonna be expensive, but it's not Williamsburg.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you could thrive. There's bars, there's cool restaurants, but yeah, give it a few more years. Those restaurant owners, those bar owners, everybody kind of settles down, and like the trend
Yeah, and the people
changes.
that were like living in Bushwick, 9, 10 years ago, were taking the L to like hang out in Williamsburg. Now they're just staying in the neighborhood to hang out. But we can get further into Bushwick in a bit. Part of what like has driven this change in Williamsburg is all the condo developments, right? And those are pretty much wrapping up. I mean, Williamsburg is a not a really big place, although now we have, what do they call it? East Williamsburg is now just now it was like East Williamsburg, now it's just Williamsburg. But as a native Brooklynite, what would you call that?
Bushwick. But hey, like no judgments to anyone.
That's how I feel about
It's,
Soha.
it's I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know about this subject. I feel a certain way about people that are not from here renaming neighborhoods.
Yeah, but it is the people that are from here or that are here. They're like the brokers and the developers. It's all marketing.
Yeah, but most of those people are not
They're not
New
native
Yorkers.
to the neighborhood.
So it's I feel weird when an outsider comes and it's like renames your home. You're like, what did you call
Yeah.
that? But whatever, it's not that bad. There's nicer things. There's more real estate, as we're going to continue to talk about.
I mean,
Excuse me.
in some places, like at least in Miami, like you get a new name, you get like a new brand, right? Because like we used to have this neighborhood. It wasn't a city yet. Like it was just a neighborhood, and it was called Carroll City, even though it's not a city. It's called Carroll City, and it is the hood. And then they incorporated and became a city, and they decided to rebrand as the City of Miami Gardens. And some people might know what that is because the Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins play and where the Miami Grand Prix is and the Miami Open is all at Hard Rock Stadium, and that is within the city limits of Miami Gardens. So, when it became Miami Gardens, some people were like, "Oh, like where is that?" And people would describe it because nobody wanted to say, "Oh, it's Carroll City," right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it had a bad rep.
yeah,
So sometimes like a new name can be like, a rebranding, right?
yeah. That's
But
how
sometimes you're just co-opting a neighborhood.
that's how I felt the first time I heard East Williamsburg. I was like, oh, like where about? And they were like, oh, here on I can't even remember the street. I was like, yeah, that's Bushwick. But God bless. Um, so Williamsburg and these like new condos and things, like a perfect example of this transformation of Williamsburg is Domino Park. And Domino Park, they had the sugar factory many years ago. Like I remember when it was open, and then it was just like closed and abandoned for so long. And now after many years, a developer has come and made amazing apartments, some condos, some rentals there. They revamped that whole side with the park. The park is beautiful. It is an attraction for not only just young people, but also people that have a family. So I'm happy that those things are available, because growing up, that wasn't the best. It was a lot of factories and whatnot. So yeah, so seeing that, like, I can't really get mad at that type of progress,
Yeah.
even if they're going to change some of the neighborhood names. But whatever, you're going to
Yeah, I
change
mean,
the
they're
name
also
and
going to
bring
change the
that.
feel and the vibe of the neighborhood, but it's like, I guess you can argue, it could be a good thing. You could also argue it's a bad thing, but we could save that for another podcast episode. So, what do you find most now in Williamsburg? Is it mostly condos, or can you still find like some brownstones? I don't think there's any co-ops over there.
You could still find some brownstones, on the like those little side streets. There's still brownstones. There's a lot of mix, but it's just the fact that big portions of land were just taken, or were used, not taken, let's rephrase that, were used for new development. So now you, like, in the place of Williamsburg where you didn't really have these like high rises, now you have things like 420 Kent, I think, like, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Okay, so now like that came out of nowhere, and now when that comes out of nowhere, then you have all these other buildings that could do the same. Eventually it will probably look a lot like the city.
Yeah. Okay.
Eventually,
I mean,
like
but they also like all these new condos have, condo amenities, right? Doorman, gym, rooftop, all that cool stuff.
a
And
lot
it's really
of
close. It's really close to the city, just like, one, two stops away, maybe if you're in East Williamsburg.
if you're lucky, because even let's say like you're a building in Chelsea that has like the virtual doorman.
Mhm.
It's kind of like the trend for the smaller buildings that come up brand new and got renovated. They'll have the virtual doorman. For the bigger like developments, let's say like 420 Kent, they'll have like the official doorman
Concierge.
concierge.
And
Yeah,
but like the prices though. Like, I feel like it's more expensive than in the city.
It can be. It definitely can
At
be.
least parts.
Exactly. Parts of the city.
And I'm talking about rentals and sales, right? Like rentals have gotten out of control in Williamsburg, and sales I think are on par with some, chic and luxury neighborhoods in the city.
Yeah. Some of the reasons like the prices just like skyrocketed in like let's say like Williamsburg is because you're right by the river. It used to be that if you were by the river, you're far from transportation, so it was like cheaper. But now, if you're by the river, there's not going to be any obstruction. There's not going to be any. There's not going to be anything blocking your view, so you're going to get the best views.
Yo, so like I don't know, an episode recently you were talking about like, the great equalizer is that eventually you're gonna lose your view.
Well, except for let's say
Except if you're on the river.
2% of people.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then you have to break it down even further because then you have to be on the right side of the building to actually
On the
get it.
riverside. You gotta be on the
So I could
riverside.
be in the right building, but I could be on the wrong side of the building, and I'm still facing another huge building.
Yeah, it would suck. Yo, you
Yeah,
know what that reminds me? It's in Hollandale Beach in Florida, in South Florida. There is a building that was built on the beach, okay?
by the beach,
Right on the beach.
boy.
Down by the beach, boy. It was built right on the beach, okay? So, almost everybody had like a partial ocean view, except people like on the ends actually had like full view. And then a few years later, apparently the building did not buy the entire lot.
Oh,
So a few years later, a building was built right in front of them, like on the sand.
yeah, that's heartbreaking because of the
The
when you
property
think about
values
if
of
you want
that,
to
the
sell
property, like the property values just dropped for that building.
all the way down, we really
Um,
need to have sound effects.
yeah,
I
I
feel
don't, I'm
like
sorry.
I feel
I
like
mean, if anybody's out there wants to donate their time as a podcast editor, hit us up. I'm trying to do my best, but I'm not that good. I would love
uh,
to add some sound effects.
I don't know what.
Oh, you should be like on the radio, like you could just like press a button and it's like a fort machine. All right, so Williamsburg. So with all these condos, a few years ago I was showing a client and he was looking to buy, and there was this new condo development going up, and I think they had like sent a blast, like an email blast or something, saying like, "Hey, we're starting showings, like come check it out." So my bad, I didn't preview first. Like I'm just like, "All right, let's go." Like they're gonna show us probably a model. We get there, and I'm like, "That can't be it. It's still under construction." And like when they had told us like, "Oh, you're gonna have to like." Hard hat because part of the building is still being constructed, which
Yeah,
I've been in a part of the building has been constructed, but the rest of it is fully finished. Bro, the guy, the broker walks us into a unit that doesn't even have doors or walls.
gotta imagine it. It's the fun part
Yeah,
of the job.
yeah. And he's like, so here's your balcony. And I'm like, the whole thing is a balcony. There's not even windows.
I
Like,
got off the
what?
elevator and walked into a balcony.
And then he's like, here, I could show you pictures of the renderings of what it's gonna look like. And I'm like, I could have done that online. Like, what
Some
kind
people
of
do
shit
their
is this?
best selling, in person. I understand,
Yeah, but at least have like a model ready.
but then also I can't like just to play devil's advocate. It's not all on the broker at that point or the agent. Those are decisions that get pushed down by developers. Like, listen,
Yeah,
start
you gotta
selling.
start selling it. Yeah.
Like, let's go.
But you could start selling it without showing it. You could be like, listen, we can't
Sure,
act, there's nothing to show you, but like, here, we'll send you video renderings. We'll send you
there's ways
actual
of
like
going
videos.
about it that you could pique the interest of people and like send out, like you said, videos of renderings and things of that nature,
Because
3D
like I know
models.
you could still like buy stuff before it's even built because like you can just be like, oh, okay, you're gonna build my unit. I want these custom finishes. That's totally fine. But like if you're gonna have somebody come like to see something, have something to show them. Not a
Yeah,
single. There was not even like one common space. Not a single thing was done. It was
we
just they
have a
were laying
door.
concrete.
We have a door.
No, there was no door.
Um,
Anyways, so anything else that you want to talk about Williamsburg?
what else can we say about Williamsburg? Access to the city is like probably one of the best features. I love.
Oh yeah, and they have that ferry, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I love the ferry.
With the new developments, they do some things that are actually smart, and it's
Mhm.
like another another mode of transportation takes less people off that train. And Josh is always going to be happier when, I have a little bit more leg room, elbow space when I'm on those
For sure.
trains.
For sure. But I like taking the ferry. If I'm going somewhere that like the ferry makes sense, it's fun. And they also have like a bar. Not like a full bar, but better than nothing.
Hey, in between appointments, there's nothing wrong. It's perks of the job. Perks of the job.
That's right. All right, cool. So I think that wraps up Williamsburg. Cool place. I think one of my favorite restaurants, that's a lie. One of my favorite restaurants to take tourists is out there. But I haven't gone in a couple years because I haven't had tourists in a while.
You're becoming a native where all you know are other natives and all your friends have already visited you once.
Yeah. I love not having to when my friends like would start visiting, they'd be like, "Oh, let's walk the Brooklyn Bridge." I'm like, "So what?"
It is beautiful. Great pictures. I might actually be walking the Brooklyn Bridge soon. I haven't done it in a little bit. I'm about to
Yeah.
revamp it. Don't worry. We'll have video of that. It'll be coming to IG near you. But with some cons, I guess, of Williamsburg, like you said, the pricing.
Mhm.
Pricing has gone so high that it is very, very comparable to Manhattan and, like you said, certain neighborhoods, which is one of the reasons as a native, kind of born Brooklynite, I don't know if I could move back to Brooklyn
Mm.
because the neighborhoods that I would want to live in are just as expensive as living in, Manhattan. And now I'm just adding to my commute time. As much as I just spoke highly of walking the Brooklyn Bridge, I ain't trying to do that shit all the time. The hell out of here.
No, for sure. All right, so Bushwick, your hometown.
Let's go Bushwick. All right, for now I'm gonna just make up sound effects
All right,
occasionally.
that's fine. You can do it. You can be our sound effect man. So when I first moved here, I spent some time in Bushwick. I didn't live there, thankfully. No offense, it's just far, especially from where I was living, which was in Harlem.
Yeah, Bushwick is far from Harlem. But other play if you're below
14th Street.
no, even that that's really quick. But even if you're at 59th Street, that's like a 45-minute commute.
Yeah, but but what if you have to take like the 2-3 or the 1-2-3? Like, no one
That
likes
becomes far.
no one likes having to do that like underground avenue walk from 6th to 7th.
Yeah, well, it's better than being outside when it's too cold.
Yeah, I guess.
Since I travel those subways all the time, I figured out the best ways to navigate the tunnels, not the actual tunnels, but the platforms
Mhm.
to get from one avenue to the next. You could at this point go cross town at 2nd Street from, let's say, 5th Avenue. I could get to 8th Avenue at this point at 42nd Street without getting on a train. That's pretty good.
That is good.
I'll take it.
But Bushwick, I feel like at least, probably 9 years ago, 10 years ago, and now maybe a little bit less, but probably has those warehouse parties that you were talking about.
Good old
Raves and
days.
warehouse
Those
parties. They're no longer
Josh
in
before he
Williamsburg,
became
but
a
they're
real
in
estate
Bushwick.
agent.
Yeah. So they're in Bushwick now. I've been to not fun. I've been to some. It's been a while, but I've been to some and they're definitely interesting. I
Yeah,
think the crowd in general is interesting.
it's definitely not your vibe. Definitely not your vibe.
Mm-mm. Nothing against it. It's just not for me personally.
Speaking of cool Bushwick things that's new, you might enjoy. You have
Okay.
children and stuff like that. They opened up a roller rink. Now,
Oh shit.
granted that
Okay.
it can get adult style later in the day,
Nice.
which is fun. I'm all for
Super
that.
fun. But a roller rink all the way to get to Bushwick from Hackensack is a
Oh
bit
yeah,
far.
if you're in the city, you want something to do. If you're visiting one of your old friends in Bushwick, go there. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bushwick.
Actually, one of my the best things about Bushwick, I don't know if it's still there, I'm hoping, but there was this lady right by the park. What is that? Maria Fernandez or
Maria
something?
Hernandez.
Hernandez, whatever. Right by the park, there was a lady that just had a stand and she would make and sell pupusas. If anybody knows what a pupusa is,
I was just gonna say for the people, can you explain what a pupusa is?
it's I don't know how to explain it because it's very specific to El Salvador and Honduras. It's kind of I guess in English you would call it kind of like a white corn cake that's very very flat and inside you stuff it with meat and cheese and beans.
Ooh, that
And
sounds
like then on top you
delicious.
put like coleslaw and like stuff, but like very specific to these cultures. It's fucking bomb.
Chef's kissing.
It's so good. I love pupusas. So because of the history of that neighborhood that Josh is gonna give y'all, that is why you have, pupusas and a lot of other different kinds of food, which is cool. Like, and one of the things that we were talking about in the last episode is, this city is one of the most diverse in the world. So you can just get pretty much any kind of food that you want.
Yep. Yep, definitely. Growing up in Bushwick, it was very different than what Bushwick is now, where like New York has always been a melting pot, but it was neighborhood kind of like this neighborhood, and I don't just mean Bushwick because Bushwick is there's a big portion of like Bushwick is pretty big. Like there's parts of Bushwick. So if you were from this part, you didn't deal with this, this group of kids that were like in Bushwick. And that also met with like, ethnicities where, yeah, we were like, it's a melting pot in New York, but we were kind of like segregated to like these neighborhoods. And we'll go into Greenpoint as well. Like we could talk about that. So having access to like many different cultures because it's all within Bushwick is great. But it's like, oh, if I don't know someone on that block, I'm not going to that block. And now it is so different, where you still have the diversity, but now it's like everyone's on everybody's block and it's nobody's block anymore. It's just one bigger community, which I can appreciate a bit. I come from a time when Bushwick wasn't really safe and wasn't really desirable to live there. So rents were cheap. That's good in one aspect of life, not good in the other.
I mean, remember like Louis used to live out there for a bit because it was cheap. And, he's also a little dirty hippie. Louis, if you're watching, I love you.
She said it, not me.
You were thinking it. So he used to, we were talking about it the other day. He used to live like on, what is it? Elder Street. Yeah. And everything in his neighborhood was like all Puerto Rican. His bodega was awesome. I was like, I can't get this bodega in Harlem. Like, it's like, spick food, my favorite. And I mean, he also lived like in a loft, and it was like this old like, warehouse building or factory, and it was just like artists and people that had no jobs.
Yeah.
And in each apartment you had like 6 people.
It was all the kids from Williamsburg that got pushed out pretty much. That's what it was. And like the kids from Williamsburg were the artists that got pushed out of like East Village. It's that's kind of how the trend goes. So the artists show up and then make it trendy, and then all the like outsiders want to come to where the artists are. So
if you're telling me the trend is that it's every couple decades it goes further east, eventually they're going to end up in Long Island.
Yeah, maybe. Probably not.
No, I know I'm making a joke.
They'll still build up. They'll build up.
Long Island will show up with their guns and be like fuck no.
Shout out to my people in Long Island. But it was a lot. It was a lot. I think I heard they are trying to bring back the booze train.
There's a booze train?
Like it's like a thing where at a certain hour on the LIRR, it's like everybody's just smashed. Because remember, you have to get back to Long Island like before the LIRR shuts down. And usually people have hit happy hour and been hanging out a bit. So by the time they get to like the actual train, it's just like one big party with all these like young people.
Oh, okay. That would be great. Like,
good times.
If you could just get drunk on the train, bring a DJ and shit.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they've made that happen at one point.
They do that on the ferry. The ferry like has some party sometimes.
So Bushwick took on the identity of, let's say, Williamsburg, and then the East Village before that, where like the cool kids and the artists and the musicians, like all those people, they want to live affordably. And now what we're seeing, business owners like realize that, and they start like building businesses here. Like, all right, let me open up a bar here, let me open up a restaurant here, because these places are good, and that changes the neighborhood as well. Some good food, some good places to go. Like, I'm not mad at that. The fact that I could probably not afford to live in my like neighborhood that I grew up. Yeah, like isn't Bushwick getting expensive now? Like I feel like a lot of people are now leaving Bushwick and trying to go to like Ridgewood or somewhere else. Yeah, Bed-Stuy maybe. They're moving all over. And I think I say this to like most clients, you start off in New York, you're thinking of one neighborhood. And as you live here longer, you start taking the train, you get more friends, and you start exploring the city a little bit more. And then all of a sudden it's to a year three and you've like went to so many different other places. You're like, yeah, I will live over here. I have a friend that lives over there. The commute isn't terrible. All right. And there's like cheap rent. Okay, cool. I could deal with that. That's what tends to happen. So as you I guess, age in New York. You're here for a little bit longer. You're a little bit more comfortable with exploring, different neighborhoods and knowing that you could get to the cool neighborhoods like Bushwick, Williamsburg, East Village very quickly. That's what's important. And,
Yeah.
I feel at a certain point, it's kind of going to like level off the same way like Williamsburg is like, yeah, this is what it is now. This is what it's always going to be. It's the same thing's going to happen to Bushwick. And we're pretty close to that point. When I walk through Bushwick now, I see tons of new development, and the new development is a lot, goes a lot higher than everything else around it. So that tells me exactly what's going to happen with the neighborhood. So once one building comes in and is, 8, 9, 10 stories high, that gives the opportunity for another one and another one.
For sure.
And when it comes to the pricing, if you're a mom and pop and you like got a cheap building in Bushwick, now is the time. Like you see everybody else selling, like yeah, this is retirement for us. This will take care of everything. I don't blame them. It kind of just makes sense.
Do you see that happening a lot in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I have friends that their parents retired and they want out, and they're like,
is it that they wanted out so they sought it out, or developers came knocking on their door?
Oh, that happens as well. That happens all the time. That down Bushwick Avenue or down like one of my good friends. I hope we could get him on the podcast one time. Down Evergreen, you see them come and they knock on door to door, and they're, hey, let me buy your house. And when you only spend 70, 80,000, 100,000, and it's actually worth like $1 million now, and you struggled for 30 years to just live in this neighborhood that nobody wanted. Now they want it. Like, why wouldn't you like give it up?
So I have two thoughts. So the first one, I'm just gonna like sidetrack slightly, talking about like how they bought, all those years ago for like 70, 80,000 in Bushwick. I was actually having a conversation with someone the other night who owns an apartment in Chelsea in the historic district on 23rd.
Yeah.
And so she bought it in the 90s for about $1 million. And she said today it's probably worth 3. I think she's probably undervaluing it. But she's like, in the 90s, it wasn't what it is today. Like it was not as nice.
Yeah.
And like you said about Williamsburg, like, Williamsburg has now hit what it's going to be forever. So Chelsea has already hit that, right? Like, and you have more and more developments. So, but she was telling me like, she was lucky that she bought at that time, right? But when she moved, like back in the 70s, when she moved to the city, there were some of her friends that bought co-ops on Park Ave for $50,000. Right. So now they're sitting fucking pretty.
Oof.
Right. And so she's like, she's an older woman. So she's like, in hindsight, I wish I would have, because she came here after college, I think she said. And so she was like, in hindsight, I wish I would have like forced my parents to buy back then. But, who knows who had it,
yeah, and also like it wasn't
50,000 back then.
That type of stuff wasn't. It's like in the 90s, New York City real estate, people still weren't like, especially if it wasn't like if it wasn't Manhattan, like no one was like, yeah, this is what we need to be doing here. Now that we have all this evidence of all these like horrible neighborhoods like blowing up, now that's what people are looking for. Everyone's looking for the next Bushwick. Everyone's looking for the next, Williamsburg.
Yeah.
And then I guess segue into that. What is the next Bushwick? What is the next?
So before we segue, there was one other thing that I wanted to say or ask really about these developers knocking on your friends' family's doors. If they were some of the first to sell, do you think that others in the neighborhood, like longtime residents, thought that they were sellouts? Or
no one cares. That's why these things could happen, because no one cares. No one's going to think about it that way, because everybody's going to be like, hey, you're getting $1. Cool. You're making your mom never has to work anymore. The house right next door, was on the market for $1 million. And when that happened, like my friend kind of called me. He was like, "Hey, like, what can we do?" I was like, "Hey, these are the options that you could do." It's up to, everybody gets mad, or like, certain people have, I don't want to say everyone, but certain people have a feeling of these, I was like, the newbies coming in and, taking over, and now the rents are high. But that kind of stuff allows my friend and his family to have something that's worth an amount of money that they never really thought they could have in their
Yeah.
life, like life changing money for them. That's beautiful. Like that's what coming here and working so hard is supposed to be
The
about.
American dream, right?
Like, yeah, that's what it's about. Kind of got to get with the times and evolve. And if you want to stay in a certain place, then you have to do everything you can to, like, get a piece of it. That's that's usually my take on it. My parents did it with the Lower East Side. Now I'm the next generation, and I'm like fortunate enough to have, a co-op.
Yeah, that's true.
So let the next people come in if they're going to try to make it better, if the neighbor's going to get better, if the people that came before them are going to be able to benefit from these people coming in.
True.
Okay, enough of me being on my soapbox. No, so like I was saying, the trending of neighborhoods. So we see it's like, all right, so it's like it's Williamsburg, it's Bushwick. From Bushwick, you could also throw in about the same. I would like to say its development was a little bit slower than, let's say, Bushwick and Williamsburg, but I'll have to say like Greenpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Greenpoint is in the surround, like right in that kind of in between area of Williamsburg, Bushwick.
But you can't get there unless you take that stupid G train.
And that's why it didn't develop as fast. Because
Did they make it better, the G train? I feel like it's
sure, but again, the higher ups, right? Let's say the people who control the zoning and the projects that happen and the time frame it happens in New York. When you look at it, you're like, oh well, Williamsburg is booming. A lot of people coming in, they see the numbers, and they see like Bushwick kind of booming. They see the numbers, so you're gonna probably just work on the trains that are going to be provided for those commuters.
Okay, so like the L, that's why
Like
they
the L train.
fix the L.
So there's going to be a portion of Greenpoint that's accessible because the L train and the G train, they meet at a certain point, but it takes time. This development kind of takes time, and I feel the biggest reason people are going to Greenpoint is because they kind of want to get away from the hustle and bustle. Like Williamsburg became too popular, Bushwick became too popular. It's a little
bit like slower life.
It's a little slower life, and people like that, but they're still cool, like places to go visit. With social media, businesses advertise all the time. Look what we're doing. So eventually someone likes you and thinks you're cool, and you're gonna get, how many views did we get the last time, Rach? 1,000, 2,000?
We've got 2 videos with over 2,400 views.
That's huge for us, people.
Yeah. We've only started like 2 months ago.
But so that,
and we started 2 months ago, and neither one of us know how actual social media works.
Nope. So make fun all you want. I don't care because I'm just winging this. No, so that's some of the reasons why Greenpoint kind of developed a little slower. But it's getting there. It's getting there, just like everything else, because they put the ferry. That wasn't a thing until they developed Williamsburg. So now I could also like hightail it right there, get to the ferry, and I can still get into the city pretty quickly. Cool. I can hop on a city bike, and there's tons of city bikes everywhere now, and get places. Oh, there's so many bike lanes. It's like, it's one small thing after the other that makes these neighborhoods and these communities desirable. And then once it's desirable for the average person to live there, then the businesses come in because they want to get the average person's money, and then they just like throw a shit ton of money at a neighborhood and develop the neighborhood that everybody wants to like go. I find that the people that really want to live in Greenpoint want a little slower pace than what Williamsburg, and Williamsburg is not, I'm not saying Williamsburg is like fast paced. It's just, it can get very packed in certain areas because it's so popular. The same thing with Bushwick. There's so many popular restaurants and like things to do there that you're not only going to get the residents, like the community that lives there, you're getting like tourists that are coming, and you get less of that in Greenpoint, where
for sure. Because what are they going for?
Exactly. Like that was what I used to say about Bushwick. And all of a sudden I'm like standing outside smoking a joint in front of somebody's bar. And like I see like a massive group of like tourists walking. I'm like, what's going on here? There's like a walking tour. I'm like, there's a
Of
walking.
Bushwick?
I'm like, you guys are walking this and paying for this? Awesome. Like, that tells me everything that I need to know about this neighborhood now.
That's crazy.
You know, it's same thing like the Lower East Side. Like there's so many things to do now that even the tourists want to like go there. And with the tourists, businesses, people, like it just is like just keeps going. It just is the compound effect. But I guess, you know, let's give it another few years. Let's see what businesses and what attractions Greenpoint are gonna
Yeah,
have.
I'd be interested to see what happens out there because again, like all they have only that G train, so it's a little harder, I think, to develop attractions. But then, like maybe the ferry helps.
I
We'll
I think
see.
I read someplace there's plans of like a light rail coming to this like yeah, so they're trying to get from like South Brooklyn, like
Hmm.
over there, like Red Hook area, like all that like side where it's very difficult to get from there
Hmm.
to let's say Bushwick or Queens past it.
Sure.
You would have to go into the city and then come back like
Yes.
out. So yeah, that's what I hear there might be plans for that. If stuff like that happens, I could see it being like, you know, Second Avenue. Like when the Second Avenue train
True.
station came, you know, that changed
It
the
changed. Yeah.
Upper East Side a lot. Like where now more young people live on the Upper East Side than ever before.
True. Yeah. That's true.
And when I say young people, I don't mean like children because there was always kids, but I mean
No, like
the
people
young
in like their
professional.
20s.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, anything else on Greenpoint? Like, is there any other like cons or pros that you want to mention? Like cons, I think is really just the G train thing.
Yeah, I think the cons would just be the G train thing. And then I guess some of the other cons is like if you're not going to have as many options of like the new development that you
Mm.
have in like Bushwick and Williamsburg, but there are when they do come, like there's, you know, it's going to be the same. So when they do build them new, it's going to look like Bushwick, it's going to look like Williamsburg, but they just don't have as many as Bushwick and Williamsburg just yet.
Yeah, and I guess like you said earlier, like it's gonna really depend on zoning laws, right?
Yep.
Because in Greenpoint, you don't really have tall buildings or even mid-size, right? They're all pretty low.
Yeah, it was like that
So I guess
three,
we'll
four
see.
stories, like mostly.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like we could recap. Ollie came to say hi.
Oh, let's cameo.
I don't think you guys can see him though.
Pick
Um,
that big boy up.
I can pick
The
him up.
people want to see his face.
Oh my God!
Look at this beautiful baby.
Don't knock the mic.
That's
There
right.
he goes.
Being a dog parent is awesome.
Yeah. Okay, get that bully stick.
Miss my puppies.
So Williamsburg, right, used to be, not a place where many people lived, or rather, not as diverse as it is now.
Yep.
It's definitely slowed down a bit compared to where it was, 10, 15 years ago. You're seeing a lot more families live there. Great restaurant, art scene. It's a chill place. Bushwick is also changing, right? It's on that Williamsburg track, and right now we're still in the middle of the gentrification of it. Right, so you got warehouse parties. It's definitely attracting a younger crowd. People in their, 20s, early 30s are probably more likely to be living in Bushwick. There's definitely a lot more to do now than there was before. And one thing that I wanted to say earlier and I forgot that I just remembered now is like when I'm talking to clients, Josh, I don't know about you, but I always try to say, like, do you want to live in the party or do you want to live close to the party, but still, like, not right outside your door, right? Because when people are like, oh, I want to live in like Lower East Side or East Village or I want to live in Bushwick, and I'm like, okay, well, do you want like bars right below you and people throwing up on the street? Because then you should live in those neighborhoods, right? If you want to be close, but not, you know, staying awake till 4 in the morning because everybody's out there partying, then you can go to the surrounding areas. So I would say like, Williamsburg is now that place where you could be close to where everything is, and Bushwick is living in the party. And then to continue along that idea, I guess, go to Greenpoint and you're even like further away from the party, but you're still pretty close, right? Like going home isn't going to take you an hour
Yeah.
unless the G train sucks. But yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of pricing, like Williamsburg, I think, is way beyond affordable for many people. Bushwick is becoming unaffordable, and Greenpoint, I don't even know if there's that many rentals there. So it's really about buyers mostly, I think, in Greenpoint, and I think you might get like some buyers might be able to get in there before it pops off. But yeah, I would say like Bushwick, you're going to be competing with developers, right? Because they're trying to buy everything up like they did in Williamsburg. And Williamsburg, you know, you're going to spend a lot of money if you're going to buy. So yeah, anything else you want to tack on there? Did I miss
I
anything?
think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. The only thing I want to
All right.
say is everyone that's listening, supporting, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully you could keep listening. We are
Please support us. Please
approaching
like, subscribe.
our 3rd-year anniversary. Pinpoint open. It's huge. We should probably like do like a show just on like recap funny stories of this year.
We can do that.
Trauma.
Our anniversary show. Trauma.
No, joking. So yeah, guys, like you already know the deal. You know where to find me in these streets. Bring that iced coffee.
Right.
Bring that iced coffee.
Coffee.
That coffee. New York.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, suggestions on what we could talk about or what you want to see on our Instagram, hit us up. Go to our website, pinpoint.nyc. You can hit us up on Instagram or at Pinpoint Group. Yeah, or you could just find Josh in the streets.
Yeah, for that one person in the comments that keeps trying to say like they want to see me baby doiled up, no Diddy, that's inappropriate. Like honestly, I'm a business.
Who's commenting
No
that
one,
shit?
no one, no. It's not one person that is commenting that. That is me manifesting what my future life is gonna be.
Okay. So
Yo,
somebody comment
I
that.
see you guys. I'm crazy. I'm sorry.
All right, guys. On that note, peace out. See you on the next
Catch
episode
y'all
of
later.
Pinpoint Unfiltered. Thanks for listening.